Welcome to another Drum Music TV drum lesson. This drum lesson is on the song Times Like These by the Foo Fighters. This first part is going to cover the intro to the song. You're going to need the sheet music in front of you, so make sure you print it out or have it on your computer or something, but have it in front of you because I'm going to be referencing it throughout the video lessons. At the beginning of the intro, you're going to see 7 measures of whole rests. That's 7 measures of playing nothing. And a whole rest is just the bar that's connected beneath the line. So there's 7 of those. You get 7 measures of nothing. Sometimes it's difficult to keep track of where you are when you have all those rests. How do you know when it's 7 measures? Well, there's a counting technique you can use, and that's replacing the number 1 with the measure that you're on. Let me give you an example. Starting at the beginning, I would go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and 2, and that way I can keep track of where I'm at. Measure 8 is pretty simple, and it serves the purpose of introducing the next part of the song, the progression of the song, but it also serves the purpose of bringing in the drums. So rather than just starting the drums, we have a little intro into the drums. Measure 8 starts with quarter rest, so you rest on count 1, 1, and then we have a bass drum on count 2 and count 3, 1, 2, 3, and then there's a flam. And a flam is played by having one stick lower and the other stick higher, and they're both going to hit just a little bit apart from each other. The lower one's going to hit first, and the higher one's going to hit second, and the lower one hits lighter, and the higher one is the main beat. That's the one you really hear. So it's going to sound like this. So that measure number 8, is like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Just to help you with the counting at the beginning, I'm going to count along with the music so that you can hear when the drums kick in. And I'll just do that for the beginning of the intro because it can be a little hard to pick up. 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. After that fill, then we have the drums kick in on measure 9. Now it's a quick beat, and I want you to look at the time signature. It says 7/4. We went from having a time signature in 4/4, and now it switches to 7/4. There are a couple time signature switches throughout this song, so you really have to pay attention to that. The notes in a 7/4 time signature are played the same way and counted the same way as in a 4/4 time signature. The difference here is that instead of only going up to 4 beats in a measure, we're going to count all the way to 7, like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and. Measure number 9 starts with a crash cymbal. I use my high crash for this because during the chorus there's a crash cymbal required, and it's actually a little lower than this crash cymbal. So I choose to use my high crash for the crashes that occur like during the verse and the intro, and then for the chorus I use my low crash to keep that beat going, which you'll see when we get there. Measure 9 starts with the crash in the bass, 1, and then it goes to the hi-hat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and then we have a 7E and 7E and. Now what I like to do instead of say 7E and, because that's kind of hard to say, I just say 7 and 7 and. So that whole measure sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and. Measure 10 is the same thing, except there's no crash cymbal on count 1. Measure 11, the same thing without a crash cymbal. Measure 12 is where it changes it a little bit. Measure 12 starts out the same: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. But then on count 5 we have a 5E and 5E and the X with the circle around it represents an open hi-hat, and it's a quarter note, so you're just going to leave it open while you hit 5E and 5E and. You're going to see on 6 there's a 16th rest, so there's nothing on 6, but E and we have some high toms, so 6E and then 7 is a low tom, 7 and is the snare and the crash. I'm going to play that through for you at a slow tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and. Even slower, measure 12 sounds like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and. realistically, the song is at a pretty fast tempo. It's 144 beats per minute. And if you attempt to count it along with the music, you're going to get all caught up. It's going to be really difficult. The best thing to do is to use counting to learn the rhythm, but then get a feel for what it sounds like so that when you're playing at the faster tempo, you don't have to count it out. Because again, it's going to be so fast, you're really not going to be able to. Counting should be used as a tool to learn the rhythm until you internalize it, until you know it. Measure number 13 is that same pattern that we had through measure 9, 10, 11, but without the crash on count 1. Measure 14 is the same. Measure 15 is the same rhythm, but we do have a crash symbol on count 1. Measure 16 is the same thing. And measure 17, it finally changes a little bit. Measure 17, make sure you're watching out for those time signature changes. They can come up quickly. Measure 17 switches to 4/4 time. And what you're going to see for the first two counts is something very similar to what we had previously. 1 and 2 and. But then on count 3, you're going to see that X for a hi-hat, but above that you're going to see a circle. What that means is you're going to use a loose hi-hat for this next part. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now it's not completely open, but it's just loose. It allows the cymbals to vibrate. So here's tight, and then loose. Measure 17 slowly sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Measure 18 continues the loose hi-hat, and it continues that beat, but on count 4, we have a little transition here into another part of the song. On count 4, there's a flam. And remember the flam? It sounds like this. And that's kind of a break from one part to the next. So measure 18 slowly, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Measure 19 starts with the crash in the bass, 1 and, but now you're going to notice that the hi-hat, instead of having eighth notes driving the rhythm on the hi-hat, you're going to have quarter notes driving the rhythm. And the hi-hat remains loose. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. I'm going to do that again slower. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. Measure 20 starts with the quarter note and nothing on the bass. 1 and 2 and 3. And in this situation, you're going to see the X with the circle around it on the hi-hat. But we're already playing loose, and basically what that represents is a half note. It's going to take up 2 counts. So 1 and 2 and 3. It goes all the way to 4. Count 3 includes some triplets. It's going to be counted like this: 3 and a la 4. 3 and a la 4. So 3, 3, and a la 4. It's snare, high tom, and then 2 low toms of 4. And I just do that right, left, and a la 4. That whole measure 20, 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4. When you go into measure 21, be careful not to rush that 1, because you're coming back from a fill with 16th note triplets and a la 4, and the tendency is to rush the count 1. And a la 4, wait for 1. And a la 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. Measure 21 is the same as measure 19. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. Measure 22 starts out the same as measure 20. 1 and 2 and, but then changes up on 3. There's just a 3 and 4. Even though that X on measure 22 on count 4 is actually a higher X, which usually indicates a higher crash, because in the chorus I think the low crash sounds a little better, I've switched them around. So when it says high, I'm hitting low. When it says low, I'm hitting high. So for that one, I hit 4, and then when I go to measure 23 on the verse, I'm back on 1 with the high crash. You can do it however you like. I'm going to play the intro for you at slow tempo and then at the regular tempo, 144 beats per minute. I'm going to start at measure 9, and for the first part I'm going to go measures 9 to 16. So that's the whole 7/4 part, measures 9 to 16.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and
to play 9 to 16 at the normal tempo, 144 beats per minute.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 1 and 2.
Now I'm going to play measures 17 to 22, first through slowly and then at normal tempo.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and